What am I? I'm a jiu-jitsu expert who loves to produce music. That's it. That's all I can say. Growing up, I wanted either to be a rock star or a professional football player. And once I figured out that Mexicans don't play professional football, I focused everything on music. And throughout my teens, it's always been about producing music, going to Hollywood, becoming a rock star. I didn't want to be a fat rock star, so I knew I had to stay in shape, wanted to look good on stage for the women, and for the boys too. So I joined a gym. I realized real quick I couldn't handle lifting weights, so I thought it was just too boring. So then I got into karate. I always been a big Bruce Lee fan, just never could afford martial arts growing up. But at that time, I'm like, I gotta stay in shape, I gotta pay for something. So the closest place to my job, the most convenient place to go was a karate place. There wasn't a kung fu. I wanted to do kung fu, I wanted to do some Bruce Lee stuff, but there wasn't anything around where I worked. So I started in karate, did that for a year, saw UFC 2, saw Royce dominate my karate heroes. So I jumped ship. You know, it didn't take that much. I jumped ship, found the closest jiu-jitsu school. It ended up being the Machados. I started training under Jean-Jacques Machado, and I discovered a way to stay in shape that was, you know, as the funnest thing you could do. You know, learning to put people to sleep and break limbs, that's fun. I won the North American Abu Dhabi trials. I got to go to the big show, Abu Dhabi in Brazil. I faced Hoyler, got lucky, tapped him out. Then I got my ass kicked in the next round by Leo Vieira. You know, and I took that Hoyler win and, you know, ran with it. And I'm off the grid. I don't have a regular job now. I'm not living like Jay-Z or anything, but I'm doing all right. And, you know, I'm doing good enough so that I could focus on my music. That's what I really want to do. Like, you got to remember, the UFC, like 17, 18, 19, 20, there was no jiu-jitsu. It was horrible jiu-jitsu on the ground. I mean, if you look back, there was like one or two guys that knew how to do jiu-jitsu. So I was thinking, man, maybe I could do MMA if I had to. If I had to quit my job, or if I lost my job, maybe I'd have to do MMA. So right away, that's when I started focusing on a no-gi style of jiu-jitsu. Because I knew right away, if your whole system is grabbing a collar and grabbing a sleeve and, you know, you're yanking and pulling, what's gonna happen when you start getting punched and you don't have a collar and a sleeve? And real quick, I just noticed that, well, in jiu-jitsu tournaments, you see sweeps and submissions from the guard all the time. You see them all the time. Everyone's pulling guard all the time. Pulling guard in a jiu-jitsu tournament is like, that's like saying you're a badass, you know? Marcelo Garcia pulls guards going, come on, let's do this. When Jeff Glover or Ryan Hall pull guard, they're like, let's go. I'll let you get on top. I'll take the bottom, let's go. And dudes are like, oh no, they're afraid. That's how, and there's all these sweeps and all these finishes from the bottom, but why weren't you seeing it in MMA? It became obvious to me, you know, if you're yanking and pulling and there's no punches, it's gonna be a big difference when someone's coming down with some elbows on your face. It changes everything, you know? I mean, you look at what Roger Gracie has said. Roger Gracie, he said 80% of his jiu-jitsu does not work in MMA. That's the king of jiu-jitsu right now, saying what I've been saying this whole time. I knew that I would be so far behind in my striking and my wrestling that I wanted to make my jiu-jitsu as MMA ready as possible. That's when I got on this no-gi MMA style jiu-jitsu, just in case I had to do it. So there was a few years where I was focused on what's gonna work off your back the best when someone's trying to punch you. Whether it's on the street, whether it's in MMA, that was the most important thing to me, just in case I had to do MMA. I got a job writing with Joe Rogan on The Man Show, and I thought that was going to launch superstardom. So when it didn't, when I realized really quick that the show was going to get canceled and it sucked, and there was a bunch of internal problems going on. The whole Man Show story, that's a whole hour in itself right there. It was a nightmare. And right in the middle of the nightmare, I'm going to lose. Either I'm going to get fired or the show's going to get canceled, but what the hell am I going to do for money now? My life became like a nightmare. Like that was the lowest point of my life. Right when I went to Abu Dhabi and faced Hoyler, I was at the worst point of my life. That was the worst. Nightmares. Like, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do? I knew this show was going to get canceled. I was going to do MMA. Fight in Shudo for $2,000 a fight. Remember, this is before I tapped out Hoyler, so I had no value, really. I've never been the kind of guy that trains like an Olympian. I never, like Sean Shirk and all that stuff. I did jiu-jitsu because it was fun. That's all I never trained hard for anything. I did train hard for Abu Dhabi. That's the first time I cut weight like a wrestler, like a professional fighter. I was doing cardio. I mean, I was training like, and still, it was still, like Sean Shirk if he was at his worst training camp, probably. Maybe not even as good as his worst training camp. But for me, I was training like, man, I was doing jiu-jitsu every day and doing some weights and trying to get strong and shit. And I hated it, watching my diet. Oh, I don't like doing any of that. But when I won the finals of the trials, when I raised my hand, when I heard the noise and I raised my hand, I was like, oh, I'm going to Brazil for free. It was like I won a game show. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get to compete with the best. Oh, I'm going to get to roll. It wasn't like that at all. Like for me, I just had my little thing. If I ever had to do MMA, I was going to be as MMA ready as possible. I was going to overhook, head control, rubber guard. I was going to go after him. I wasn't thinking I was like the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world or anything, or I'm going to go and I'm the best. Had nothing to do with that. I just wanted to see if I could. I just jumped into competing just to see how I was just curious to see how I would do. So I get to Brazil, and with no expectations, the first guy I went against was a black belt named Gustavo Dantas. And I'm like, man, either he's gonna fucking smoke me or I'm gonna smoke him. Beat him a lot easier than I thought I would, and that gave me a lot of confidence, because usually I never had confidence when I would grapple. I would always be too nervous. It was just super nervous. I didn't have any pressure in Abu Dhabi. I'm like, you guys are all black belts, I'm a brown belt. There was zero pressure. I wasn't really nervous at all. It's like, there's no pressure here. I beat him, I'm like, whoa, and that even gave me more confidence. I go, I got Hoyler next. I was in the back, I'm like, man, I think I could beat him. Because the main thing is because he wasn't built, he wasn't yoked. Yoked people always freak me out, because I've never been a yoked guy. I've never been like an athlete. I'm not an athlete at all. Slow, I'm not strong. And when if my opponent was a solid athlete and he was totally shredded and ripped, that would freak me out. I go, damn, he's a gorilla. I'd freak out. So, and Hoyler was skinny as hell. And anytime I saw someone that wasn't as strong as me, I go, there's no way he's gonna beat me. That's the only time I had real confidence, is when I see someone that is not as big as me. And I'm not a monster or anything, I'm a regular dude, but if you look even weaker than I do, there's no way you're gonna beat me in my eyes. That's just the way I look at it. I'm like, it's gonna be hard for you, man. You need some muscle to beat me. That's the way I look at it. And Hoyler's skinny as hell. So I looked at him, we stood, like, I'm like, this is the guy in Gracie in action that I always used to like show off my friends to. I'm like, man, I was starstruck initially. And then, but again, his body didn't freak me out at all. But that changed quickly, because when we clinched up, he was 10 times stronger than I had imagined. He really is super strong. For a little skinny guy is really strong. And he controlled me for most of the match. And he exposed my weaknesses, which end up being my strengths now. Like, what he did to me, if he did that to me now, it'd be in a lot of trouble. Well, initially I beat him, and then Leo Vieira, he killed me in the next match. And the crazy thing about the Leo Vieira thing was, The Abu Dhabi before, he went against my master, Jean-Jacques Machado, up a weight class. And Jean-Jacques couldn't finish him. He beat him on points. He beat him like 9-0, but he couldn't finish him. That freaked me out because Jean-Jacques crushes me. And then I heard Leo Vieira is going to lose weight and go down to 45. And then I'm like, stay up in your weight category. Don't come up and down to my weight category. And I kept hearing these rumors that Leo Vieira was going to cut. Wasn't even thinking about Royler too much. Like, I thought I could beat Royler. I wanted to put Royler in a twister and get disqualified. That was my goal. So after I beat Royler, I knew Leo Vieira was next in my head. So I wasn't like that happy about beating Royler. I knew that, damn, this is going to be like, yeah, I beat him. This is great. Fuck yeah. People going, fuck, that's awesome. And the backstage, people, like Joe was freaking, everyone was like freaking out. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, shit, this ain't going to last too long. Because I already lost to Leo Vieira. In my head, I already lost to him. That's where my mind went just, there's fighting with confidence, fighting with a strong warrior spirit, and then fighting, when you're totally intimidated and, you just get smashed by it. And that's what happened with Leo Vieira. As a matter of fact, right before we were getting ready to go, we were on the side, crowd's going nuts, there's other matches going on, and me and Leo Vieira are we're on deck. He's like sitting Indian style on his he's got like a double lotus, and he's like doing like some yoga, and it's loud and shit. And Comprito, his coach, is leaning over and like yelling shit in his head, like I don't know what it was in Portuguese, but he must have been saying shit like, you could do this, just stick to the game plan. Meanwhile, I'm like walking around going, that is completely unnecessary. You don't have to get that psyched out. I already felt weak inside. I went in there like the worst, I went in there like the biggest pussy you could ever go in. During that match, what Leo Vieira did to me is he exposed another one of my weaknesses, which was my style. Every single competition I've ever been in, I do the same thing. I pull half guard. I've never taken anybody down. I just pull half guard and I let you have half guard on this side. So look, I'm gonna give you half guard on this side. Everyone took it. Everyone has always taken it. I would take it every time. If some guy sat on their ass and said, I'm gonna give you half guard, I'm like, you dumb motherfucker, I'll take that half guard. I'll take it. So for me, I always did that. I always just pull half guard and people always take it. So I become strong on this side. But the guy on top, if you understand the game of jiu-jitsu, the guy on top decides which side you're gonna work. What I did is I just offered this side and they always take it. But you don't have to take it. You could take this side if you want and force me to play this side. Leo Vieira, in an interview, he said this. He said that he was at the trials 6 months prior, and he was there in the audience, and I knew exactly who he was. I was scared of him back then. He said he studied the game, and he realized that he does the same thing every time. I pull guard. I invite you to this side, and he said I wasn't going to take that side, I was going to take the other side. And he did it. You watch the match, he never went to my strong side. He always went to the weak side. And it's a big difference. I'm a black belt here, white belt over there. So I gotten a lot better with the weak side, still nowhere near the strong side. But he exposed that, and he passed my guard easily, like 100 times on that side. And halfway, and I was still just in a dream and a haze going, oh, I can't believe, in my head, I just tapped out Royler Gracie and now I'm looking like a total chump. No one's even gonna remember the Royler Gracie thing. Look, I'm a chump, I'm falling apart. Just totally mentally breaking down. And halfway through the match, I snapped out of it. And I said, you know what? There's 5 minutes left. There's plenty of time. Let's do this shit. I really did snap out of it, and my confidence came, and I go, I'm gonna go after this motherfucker. He hasn't finished me in 5 minutes. I was just the whole time afraid he was gonna finish me, but he couldn't me. So I decided to go after him, and right when I decided to go after him, he was already, ahead by a landslide at this point. But he passed again to the left, and then at this time I thought I'm just gonna shrimp and just explode on him right here. And I did, and you can see it's on the video. As I shrimp this way, I popped the rib. So when I pop that rib, you can see me go, ah. I'm like, okay, at that point I go, I'm not gonna tap though. I'm not gonna tap. He already won, but he ain't gonna tap me. So at that point, it was done. And then that's why I couldn't compete. I was supposed to compete against Solka for third place, but I decided in the morning that I couldn't do it because I couldn't even sleep. My rib was popped. So I was kind of depressed because the whole Leo Vieira thing, I just handled that like a complete pussy, and was not really that happy. But everyone kept saying, man, you tapped out Royler Gracie, you tapped out Royler Gracie, and people kept talking about that. And I'm like, yeah, but I got my ass kicked the next fight. I got my ass kicked, but it seemed like, and then when I got a phone call from a friend of mine who kept saying, quit your man show job, they're gonna fire you, they're gonna get canceled anyways. Open up a school, people are talking about you, man. Let's do this, I'll help you open up a school. And I go, you know what, I'll just, at that place that offered me a job, the Bomb Squad, I'll just go there and say, hey, I'm ready to do this. Quit, and he said, let's do it. So I quit, walked off the man show, and just put an ad, not an ad, I posted up a thread on the underground, said I'm opening up a school, man. 18 people showed up, and then from that point on, I was like, this is the way I'm gonna do it.